Next on the programme, a major report which examines the experiences of the Hillsborough families is to be released later this morning. It was commissioned after inquest last year found that the 96 football fans were unlawfully killed. The report's aim is to inform authorities in their handling of current and future disasters, with some bereaved relatives saying it could help the victims of the Grenfell fire. Our reporter Anna Collinson has been talking to some of those who've been affected by the tragedy.
It's been nearly 30 years since Hillsborough, but for many, the memories are still raw. Even those who weren't alive when it happened seem to understand its significance.
My mum was, she was a real character. She was actually from Denmark, and she moved over here in the 60s. She was a huge Beatles fan and a Rolling Stones fan. She made the connection between the Beatles and Liverpool, so she decided that it was Liverpool was the team that she was going to follow. You know, by the time Hillsborough happened, we were going to like 40 plus games a season, home and away, following Liverpool all over the country.
And it was really you, your brother and your mum?
Absolutely, it was the three of us. That's what we did as a family.
But for Liverpool's sold-out FA Cup semi-final in 1989, the Shah family split up. 17-year-old Becky watched the match at home. Her mum and brother went to Sheffield. Shortly before kick-off, a large crowd of fans built up outside one end of Hillsborough Stadium. An exit gate was opened, and there was a severe crush.
I just couldn't believe what I saw, and obviously found it very, very upsetting. Just even, you know, I was upset about my mum, but just even watching ordinary Liverpool fans, some of them gasping for air, and some of them having to have the kiss of life. And I sat at home and just felt so completely useless, and that feeling has never gone away. And it was about 4 o'clock in the morning when a police car turned up at my house and told me that my mum had died.
Inga Shah was one of 96 men, women and children who died at Hillsborough. Her ashes were scattered at Anfield, and her 2 children were put into care and were very nearly separated.
I think it would have been absolutely horrendous, on top of the bereavement and the trauma that we'd already had to suffer because of our mum's death and a massive national disaster. So then have to be split up from your only relative is just surely too much. Obviously, you know, we had some support from the social services. My brother had some treatment for his trauma, but it was by no means enough.
Now a report which aims to reveal the experiences of people bereaved by Hillsborough is being released. This new report by the former Bishop of Liverpool, how important is that for the Hillsborough families?
I think that's incredibly important. There are times when I do feel exhausted. I feel absolutely shattered, and one of those times was after the inquest, where I woke up the next day and felt that all of this, over all these years, has taken years off my life. And that's why this report is so important. I want to know why it's taken the government 28 years to come and ask us what life has been like for us over this period. I think that's absolutely disgraceful. It's taken them 28 years.
This new report focuses on those who lost loved ones at Hillsborough, but Becky says the impact of the tragedy goes much further. From the survivors who suffered life-changing injuries that day, to the campaigners who've been supporting all of the victims from the start.
What people need to realise, we're going back to 1989, so even the term post-traumatic stress wasn't in common usage as it is now. We know of two survivors that have committed suicide because they couldn't live with the trauma they've experienced over time.
Initially in the hospitals and everything, obviously there was support when I had to learn to walk again and, you know, talk. Once out of hospital, nothing at all.
When you say nothing at all, does that include no counselling?
No counselling, no nothing. Just left, basically. I've got like a brain injury, you see, and it's a complex one. So each day, it's
just really difficult, isn't it? Yeah. And
Take your time.
I think the thing for Jill is that, like a lot of survivors, she stayed in the background. She stayed in the background when she should have been, or people should have been shouting for support for her. And that is the crucial factor, because we know, I mean, it's a fact that when people receive help in the immediate aftermath, they stand a much greater chance of recovery, and that just didn't happen after Hillsborough. And, you know, multiply Jill by hundreds of other people, potentially thousands, and you begin to get the picture.
I myself have suffered terribly with mental health problems, with post-traumatic stress, and survivor's guilt as a result of the disaster, and it's really impacted on me. I've lost my job during the inquest, and I've almost been sectioned.
Do you think that if Hillsborough happened today, the reaction and the support there would be different?
I think it would be different, but it still leaves a lot to be desired. And I suppose the most obvious comparison to make at present would be the Grenfell Tower fire. We went down to Grenfell very shortly after the disaster, just to say that the most important thing at the moment, apart from adequate rehousing, is specialist trauma counselling. And if you can learn anything, it's that this must be put in place. And I think that is still a contentious issue from people we know around Grenfell. All these years later, we still have the situation where survivors of a disaster are being excluded. What I think is the good thing about Grenfell is that people are shouting out about it, and they're saying we will not wait. We will not wait 28 years. We will not be like Hillsborough, and that's the positive. And when we hear that, we're always heartened by that.
This report is being released. Is that it for the fight? Do you feel that you've reached a conclusion?
Obviously, we welcome anything which takes things a step further, but this is a long road that people have been on for many years. The legacy of Hillsborough has to be a better society, because it's not just about a report to be put on shelves. It's about people cannot be treated like this.
Anna Colliston reporting. The Hillsborough Review is released at 11:30, full coverage, of course, on BBC News.